I think it's really come a long way since the late 70s and early 80s when TEDs were new and fishermen were not very informed about them, had not used them very much.
And we've been working with it, and it don't seem to really give us that much trouble.
Well, we've learned them. You know, we've got educated with them.
There would be a whole bunch more turtles dead out there if it wasn't for the cooperation between fishermen and government.
Fishermen are working more than they ever have in the past with the agency to help refine and develop better TEDs.
Our best hope for the long-term success of our living marine resources and the industry that depends upon them is to maintain a healthy equilibrium between harvest and conservation. Without proper management and enforcement, we could rapidly destroy both.
These are all red widows? Yeah.
NOAA Fisheries balances the nation's economic need for a successful and competitive seafood industry with the ecological need and federal mandate to recover protected marine species, such as sea turtles. One of the most severe challenges faced by NOAA Fisheries in recent years has been to resolve a direct conflict that exists between shrimp trawling and highly endangered sea turtles.
Well, turtles are air breathers. They're reptiles. They have to breathe air. And depending on what they're doing, they can spend differing amounts of time under the water. When they're caught in trawls, which overtake them when they may be feeding on the bottom, they may be on their way to the surface and they get overtaken by a trawl and captured. They have to get to the surface to breathe. And usually trawls are towed for longer periods of time than turtles need to get to the surface.
Most of them are hours, sometimes as much as 10 hours, 12 hours. There's no way that an air-breathing turtle can survive in a shrimp trawl without a way out.
Shrimp fishing yields the highest dollar value of all domestic commercial fisheries and takes place mainly in the southeast Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico, the same areas where very high concentrations of sea turtles live. In the late 1970s, NOAA Fisheries found the incidental capture and drowning of sea turtles in shrimp trawling nets to be a major threat to their survival. In 1990, reports estimated that as many as 55,000 loggerhead and Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were being killed per year in shrimp nets. With assistance from the commercial shrimping industry, NOAA Fisheries developed Turtle Excluder Devices, or TEDs, as a solution to the problem. A simple grid device, a TED acts as a strainer, allowing shrimp to pass through to the tail bag, while allowing turtles to escape through a strategically placed opening in the trawl net.
Since TEDs were first introduced, they've been very effective in reducing sea turtle bycatch, and they've also been very effective in retaining shrimp catch, which has allowed the shrimp industry to remain in business while at the same time protecting sea turtles, which are a threatened and endangered species.
The smallest of the sea turtle species, the Kemp's Ridley, was once the most critically endangered sea turtle.
These right here are Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. This is our most endangered and our smallest species of all sea turtles. They're found around here in the continental shelf, which is where most shrimping industries are. These animals are on recovery right now. They haven't recovered yet.
Although still endangered and under strict protection, their population appears to be improving. Thanks in part to the cooperation of the shrimping industry with TED regulations, the nesting levels of the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle have increased from between 700 and 800 nests per year in the mid-1980s to over 6,000 nests in the year 2000.
Clearly, the use of TEDs has improved the survivorship of thousands of turtles, tens of thousands of turtles. So without TEDs, we would be in much worse shape than turtle populations are today.
Because TEDs have been proven effective, NOAA Fisheries has been able to avoid implementing more restrictive regulations on the shrimp industry. Although TED use has greatly reduced the deaths of turtles and shrimp trawls, some turtles still cannot escape due to their size. New information based on 12 years of data and measurements of over 15,000 stranded sea turtles shows that 47% of stranded loggerheads and between 1 and 7% of stranded green turtles are too large to fit through current TED openings.
In the early years, we felt that TEDs were probably about 97% effective in excluding turtles. And in recent years, we've come to learn that the existing TEDs that were in use were in fact too small to allow the largest turtles to escape.
The original TED sizes are also much too small to allow leatherback turtles, the largest species, to escape, contributing to a dramatic decline of the species in the Atlantic.
They occur in our waters, they nest on our beaches, and they're simply too large to pass through the opening.
To ensure protection for all size classes of all sea turtles, NOAA Fisheries has amended TED regulations for shrimp trawling in all inshore and offshore waters of the Atlantic and Gulf areas. For most shrimpers, this means a simple modification will need to be made to enlarge their existing TED openings and flaps.
So the new openings are sized such that most, if not all, of the leatherbacks could successfully maneuver through the opening and release themselves.
Over the past 3 years, scientists and gear specialists at NOAA's Southeast Fisheries Center have been redesigning TEDs and testing their effectiveness at excluding sea turtles. In cooperation with shrimp fishermen, the modified TEDs were also tested for shrimp retention aboard commercial shrimp trawlers.
In the past year, there's been over 300 observed tows with this experimental gear on different vessels throughout the fleet. Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina. We've tried to cover all areas, you know, because one of the concerns was it may work in Texas, but it may not work in Georgia or South Carolina. Well, it has, and we've got over 300 tows so far. We have virtually no shrimp loss versus a standard TED.
NIMS brought them down first to us to try, and we liked them so well until we just started using them.
They're the best I've seen. I've pulled all different types. I pulled the little short ones and the wide ones and tall ones and round ones, square ones, and that's been the best out of all the TEDs, and we've tried almost every one of them.
They work better because, like I say, it gets stuff through that net and out it. And the faster you do this, the less shrimp you're going to lose.
The other flap systems on most of the TEDs that's out there right now, the ones at the bottom shooters, won't get rid of a big loggerhead unless the webbing is relaxed. You know, when you go to pick up and the webbing relaxes, he'll go out. But these here, they'll just, anything goes in, goes out. It's going, you know, and that's the best I've seen since we started on this here 9 years ago.
They work great. So far, we don't have any more trouble. Fact, the matter of it is we have less trouble because of the simple reason, when we do get something in there, say, for instance, you catch a big tire. A tire with the size TEDs that we're using, with the split flap, that stuff drops out of there a lot easier. You know, it goes through that net and goes on out. However, if you haven't got that, something can come down into the TED and it chokes down there because it ain't got enough room to get out, so it holds the flap open, and then you lose more. As it is, when you got the split flap, then it drops out, see? And then it closes back. It closes right back again. Faster you can get something through that net and out it, the better off you're going to be. It's going to cost less shrimp.
Oh, you don't lose no shrimp, but hey, I don't lose no shrimp at all out of my openings. I catch the same thing. I've been, like I say, I've tested and tested rigs against rigs without TEDs. Take the whole TED out and wouldn't even have it, just run a straight rig. Catch identical same thing.
These new regulations are based on a proposal first introduced in April of 2000 and comments received from commercial fishermen, industry and environmental organizations, and federal and state agencies. All hard TEDs are required to have a grid with a minimum outside measurement of 32 inches by 32 inches. New regulations require the use of either the double cover flap TED or a TED opening with a minimum of 71-inch straight line stretched mesh in all offshore waters and in inshore waters of Georgia and South Carolina. In all inshore waters of the Atlantic and Gulf areas, except for the inshore waters of Georgia and South Carolina, a TED opening must have a measurement of at least 44-inch straight line stretched mesh with a 20-inch vertical taut height, with each measurement taken separately. Hooped hard TEDs are no longer certified for use in offshore waters in the Atlantic and Gulf areas, nor the inshore and offshore waters off of Georgia and South Carolina. They are allowed in inshore waters other than Georgia and South Carolina if they have the following measurements: a size of at least 35 inches by 27 inches on the top opening, an inside horizontal measurement of at least 35 inches, an inside vertical measurement of at least 30 inches on the front hoop, and a clearance between the bars and the top of the front hoop of no less than 20 inches. A brace bar is now required on all weedless TEDs. All accelerator funnels must have a stretched mesh opening of no less than 44 inches in the 44-inch TED and no less than 71 inches in the 71-inch TED and the double cover flap TED. Bait shrimpers are required to use TEDs in states where a state-issued bait shrimp license holder can also fish for food shrimp from the same vessel. Limited tow times are required for small tri-nets that are exempt from TEDs. The regulations take effect April 15, 2003 in the Atlantic, August 21, 2003 in the Gulf of Mexico. This grace period allows fishermen to buy any new equipment as part of their necessary gear replacement and thereby avoid additional cost.
If they seen what I seen with these flaps, they'd put them in as soon as the law come into effect. They'd put them in. They'd even do it now before it even come into effect. It's a good system.
For most shrimpers, modifying their existing TEDs to comply with the new regulations should be an easy and inexpensive task.
Me to sew one of them in, it takes me probably 20 minutes.
It ain't no cost really at all. No more than a normal flap. It ain't but maybe another 20 matches of webbing. Polyethylene, it don't cost anything.
The modification to the escape hole itself, I think you heard one of the fishermen earlier say that it's a matter of about a 20-minute job to change the flap itself. As far as the TED goes itself, there's the installation of the webbing in the TED itself, there's no change there at all. You have to cut the hole a little bit bigger and you have to put a flap over that hole. So it's not as much as it sounds like when you read it on a piece of paper.
The new regulations are not a significant change. These are really technically minor changes that need to be made that will allow them to continue fishing, to continue catching shrimp, while at the same time improving the situation for threatened and endangered species that need their help. They need their help to survive. And this is a technical fix, a technological fix that allows the two things to coexist, allows shrimping to continue and allows sea turtles a chance to recover.
And one thing for certain, without the cooperation of the fishermen with National Marine Fisheries Service, we're wasting our time.
That's the truth.
We can do all the underwater video in the world, but without the observers that we place on these vessels and collecting data, we can't tell what's going on with it. It's been through a working relationship between nymphs and fishermen, and it has to continue to be that way to solve problems.
Your cooperation in the further development of TEDS will help to ensure the continued success of our fisheries for generations to come.
Your environmentalists can live with it, we can live with it, and you are helping. You're leaving something behind for other people that's coming up behind us out here.